Hey everyone, welcome back to this week's vlog where today I am at Spearhead Records HQ. It's so good to be here. So I thought it'd be really interesting for people to hear something about how you run a record label, how you kind of got into music, what kind of stuff you're really into at the moment, what you're creating, any records. We've just seen a new LP come out, which is very, very exciting. We'll have a look at that in a minute. But Steve, first of all, you go under the name of BC. How long have you been producing, doing drum and bass?
So I've been producing drum and bass since about 2001, but as long as I can remember I've been messing around with something to do with music. When I was like about 10 years old, my great auntie died, and we did a clear out, had to do a clear out of a bungalow, and I found these old reel-to-reel tape players and a couple of old record players and stuff. She had all this old audio stuff, and I asked my parents if I could have it, and I was in my absolute element. I used to spend ages up in my bedroom cutting up tapes and recording things onto it, and almost doing a remix, although I had no idea that's what I was doing.
That's brilliant.
I've been playing around with music for a long, long time, but it was 2001 that anybody else was interested in it.
Sure. And then what happened in 2001?
In 2001 I made a track with another guy, Doug, and we released it on a record and people bought it. So that was pretty good. Yeah, about 1,000 of them on vinyl.
Nice.
So it was easier to sell music then.
Of course.
So that kind of started off my drum and bass career.
And so you've got this whole thing, Spearhead Records now, where you work with how many artists?
Oh, I don't even know how many. At the moment I'm probably working with about 10 different people on projects for release of EPs or albums over the next 18 months. Yeah.
And what would you say as a kind of producer slash record label owner, all these different hats that you have to wear, what would you say to young kind of artists who are kind of wanting to make a name for themselves, particularly in the world of drum and bass? What kind of couple of tips would you give them?
I think the biggest tip I would give is don't be a knob. I know that sounds like a really, really basic thing, but people find that so hard to do.
Yeah.
And just to expand that, things like when you're asking somebody for feedback, don't ask somebody for feedback unless you actually want feedback.
Wow.
You'll go a lot further, a lot quicker, if you make it really easy for people to tell you what they really think about what you're doing. I'm not talking about friends and family. They'll always tell you it's good or terrible depending on how your relationship is, but people who you respect, other artists you respect, you know, listen to what they say. They got somewhere because they're doing something right. And the better you can take that criticism and feedback, the more open you are to that, the more honest they'll be with you, and the quicker you'll be able to move forwards. So I just think doing everything you can to make you an easy person to work with will advance you a heck of a lot.
Wow, that's a really good bit of advice.
I'm a very wise person.
Very, very wise. Do you want to show us your new records that have just come through the post?
Well, through the post is a bit rich, Pete. They came on 2 pallets. But I'm very pleased to reveal this picture disc that's been in the making for a little while.
Beautiful.
Remixes from my last album.
Very nice.
North Point, look at that.
If you haven't heard it yet, it's an amazing album.
On 12-inch vinyl picture disc, and I'm going to ruin some absolute magic. Spoiler alert, turn off now if you don't want to know this. I always wondered how these amazing vinyl picture discs were made with all of that colour on the vinyl. Well, turn off the next 10 seconds if you don't want to know, because unfortunately all it is that this half and this half are just clear pieces of vinyl with a printed piece of paper stuck between them.
That's amazing. I had no idea.
Ruins the magic.
Wow, that's
it.
But it looks good.
It looks cool, but that's all it is.
That is all it is.
Yeah.
Wow, tricks of the trade.
And some people say the sound quality isn't as good on a picture disc, and the reason why is because they can't get the same depth in the grooves. Bit geeky, but it's true.
You learn something every day, don't you?
Yeah, so mesmerized, found gazing on.
You've obviously seen a lot of change in the music industry over the last 15 odd years or so.
Yeah.
Going forwards, any artists and musicians, what kind of tips would you give them to kind of adapt to that change? We've been talking about change, you know, off camera and how to handle that. What would you encourage people to do, think about?
Wow. It's good to be an early adopter with things. If you see something coming up that a lot of artists are kind of buzzing about, you know, I can remember somebody outside, I can remember having a conversation with somebody in a smoking area outside a club a few years back when they told me about something called SoundCloud, and I'd never heard of it, I wasn't using it or anything else. Now SoundCloud, if you're an artist, you've probably got a SoundCloud account, and it became the kind of industry standard of how to kind of use streaming yourself to get your music out there. Well, I jumped on that as soon as he said about it. I just had a look, put some stuff up there, and because of that, I get so many streams still, because I managed to get in there early when there wasn't much drum and bass on SoundCloud, so my stuff got streamed more than anybody else's, and then still gets picked up. And you know, 9 out of 10 of these things are just going to fall apart, but it's worth investigating them all, because you don't know what the next Facebook is. If you're old enough, you don't know what the next MySpace is going to be.
I remember.
And if you're older still, you don't know what the internet is going to be.
That's true.
So, you know, I did a computing course at college, and the week I left, they got something that wasn't going to last very long called the internet.
That's amazing.
Yeah. Total waste of doing a computer course.
Yeah, completely. I can imagine.
Found gazing on the face of Christ.
For you personally, in the next year or so, you want to be creating more music, doing more nights in London, I guess. Any other things in the pipeline that you're willing to share with us?
Yeah, I mean, at the moment, to be honest, I am just kind of trying to constantly create more content, for me, more music, because I'd rather get to, like, I've only just released an album at the end of last year in September, and I'm about to release the remix album of that. So it kind of gives me a good 18 months before I need to put another album out. So in the meantime, I'm just writing as much music as I possibly can. So that in about a year's time, I can kind of pick the best of the bunch from that, and then really focus on giving them an extra kind of 20% of production to bring them up to scratch. Also, I'll be working with quite a lot of other artists just to kind of A&R their stuff, which just basically means give my old man's opinion on how good their music is. And actually, I think this is interesting. The way I kind of try and A&R people's music is not to kind of get it to sound like something I want my music to sound like.
Very good.
But you know, I'm 41 years old. I don't have the same ear that a 20-year-old is going to have, but I have 20-year-olds make music on my label. My approach to that is they know what's good. I don't want to shape their sound too much, but I want to help them to make their sound as professionally sounding as it can be. So they know kind of what a vibe to create. I just want to help them in, like, EQing the kick, or getting the snare to sound right, or the mix down, or how to market that. And I think that's something a lot of people miss. They kind of take somebody's music and try and completely change it. You know, I can't pretend to understand what younger people want anymore. I do to an extent, but only because I listen to younger people. And my 8-year-old daughter has started to help me whenever I have a computer problem. So
wow, it's crazy, isn't it?
Yeah.
Different world.
As I cast my eyes to the stars.
Finally, just on the writing thing, because I think people like me who are doing a lot of songwriting, you say 18 months you've got for kind of before the next project. How much time, when you're saying you're creating all the time, in say like a couple of months work, what would that look like? How many tracks roughly would you say you'd work on? I know it's a hard question to kind of quantify.
No, I will more or less 80% finish a track. And when I say 80%, I don't mean it's not finished. It is a finished track. So I'll finish a track most weeks. But that kind of missing 20% might be that there's a sampled vocal in it. I haven't actually written a vocal for it.
Right.
Or it might just be like it'll be good enough that I can play it in a DJ set, but like I might want to come back to and go, this bit isn't quite right, or this could just do with a little tweak here or a little tweak there. And then I'll keep coming back to those tracks time and time again until I get, so I have a session where I'll have 1 or 2 days where I just go methodically through everything and just tighten it all up. And I'll often, because I do everybody else's A&R, I'll try and get somebody else to sit with me whose opinion I trust, just to help me pick out, pardon me, which tracks are best to work with.
Yeah.
Although ultimately I'll have the final say on that, which is why I own the label.
Of course, makes sense. That's really inspiring for me personally to hear that, because I kind of set myself the songwriting goal to say, right, 4 songs in a month or something, 1 a week, and really try and finish them off, even if it's not from a production point of view. So that's really helpful to hear.
Cool.
And I'm sure people will really appreciate it, every single one of you who are watching.
Thank you very much.
And we'll see you next time.
Goodbye. Thank you, Mr. Pyramid Park.
My pleasure.